This saves over 1,800 tons of steel compared to a traditional structure of the same size. But building it was a challenge.
This particular job, there were no vertical columns. All the columns were diagonals, and they were actually not 2 stories long, they were 4 stories long. So we had to figure out how we were going to erect these columns. How do you stand up a column and have it physically stand there without bracing it or support it temporarily until you could tie the other column in?
It's all worth it in the end. With its cooling systems and decreased use of artificial light, the building consumes 26% less energy than a skyscraper of comparable size. Now, One Bryant Park is set to outdo that. Richard Cook wants his skyscraper to save 50% on energy use. As in the Hearst Tower, Cook wants to save energy at One Bryant Park by using a state-of-the-art glass window facade. Its special coating allows light to enter while blocking out heat. And engineers took it a step further.
We need to find another way to reduce the amount of sun energy that's entering into the building. So at the tops and at the bottoms of each piece of glass, we have this thing called a frit pattern, which is baked right into the glass. It's essentially paint that's baked into the glass. And it's a series of dots that fade from bottom up and from the top down. If we look right here, we can see these dots on the glass. That's the ceramic frit.
The dots are so small, they're hardly visible, but they reflect out the harmful effects of the sun, minimizing heat entry into the building. This keeps building interiors cooler, therefore, less energy is needed for air conditioning. But in order for this facade to be successful, this glass curtain wall must first withstand tough conditions. Windows on other modern skyscrapers have made headlines before, sometimes for the wrong reasons. In 1999, windows from a skyscraper in Chicago came crashing down, taking the life of a young mother. During the construction of the Hancock Tower in Boston in the early 70s, a violent storm blew out at least 63 glass panels, sending them shattering to the streets below. To avoid any catastrophes at One Bryant Park, the facade design is rigorously tested before it's installed. At this facility in Miami, Richard Cimbello and his team test equivalent glass facades under extreme conditions. They test the aluminum and glass curtain wall system with high-force winds and rains. The water rack provides the equivalent of 20 centimeters per hour rainfall. And this turboprop jet engine creates an 80 per hour wind force.
We're inspecting the wall for leakage. We will look along the gaskets, down the gaskets, at the corners. The wind gusts are also moving the glass in and out, somewhere around 1/4 of an inch.
The approved wall system design is then manufactured and installed at One Bryant Park. It will take over 8,600 glass panels to sheathe the building. Each section stands between 4.5 and 6 meters high and weighs about 453 kilograms. The men must lock each and every panel in place, one by one. To do that at these heights is time-consuming and dangerous. Here on the 38th floor, the men hang out over the ledge of the building, about 183 meters off the ground. The crews must race to keep up with the ever-rising steel structure.
There's 2 people on the bottom that hoist the panels out. The 3 on the top set the panel on the top and set it to the height and the correct in and out in the rack. It takes approximately 1 week to do the floor. Depending on the weather, the floor conditions, about a week.
To stay on schedule, they must complete the windows of this floor today. Just as in any skyscraper construction, time is money, and there is a constant pressure on the team to raise the structure on schedule. But in a green building like this one, there is even more at stake. Building sustainable skyscrapers costs about 5% more than a conventional structure. At One Bryant Park, that translates into roughly $60 million. For many companies, these additional costs may be the biggest stumbling block against going green.
Right now, a lot of these technologies are expensive, they're novel, and they're not really cost-effective yet.
But Cook thinks looking only at the initial costs is short-sighted.
If we save energy, ultimately in the long run, they will save vast quantities of money. The building will radically reduce the energy that it would have used if it was a conventional building. About half, about $4 million a year in today's dollars.
People are going to be forced to think about sustainable design more seriously, whether or not they want to, because they're going to be forced by their pocketbooks. The price of electricity is forcing people to be much more environmentally sensitive.
This is where business interests and environmental conscience converge. And when a commercial bank decides to go green, perhaps others will follow.
In the short term, it is true that there were some additional costs associated with the building of this building. However, from an energy use perspective, from the health of our employees' perspective, from the perspective of long-term play, this is a home run.
Back on the 38th floor, the window installation is almost complete. The men hang precariously over the edge of the structure, pulling together the final panels of this floor. As the windows continue to rise up the skyscraper at breakneck speed, the steel structure will soon stand at its full height. It's July 2007, almost 3 years after the skyscraper broke ground, and the men prepare for a monumental occasion. They're about to lift the final beam that will complete the top floor of the superstructure.
I'll tell you, it's a great project to be on. We're very proud to be here. And, you know, these buildings, they get prettier and prettier as they go up, and we're just very proud to be on this site.
They leave their signatures as a permanent mark on the superstructure.
Proud that we built this building.
The final beam reaches the top floor, but the work is not over yet. Now, with the floors of the superstructure at its full height of 288 meters, the men move into their next big challenge, setting a 78-meter spire on top of the giant steel structure. After weeks of waiting, the time has come. But just as the men are beginning the spire installation, something goes terribly wrong.
A bucket fell about 53 stories off a crane in Midtown, breaking several windows of the Bank of America tower under construction.
A container has crashed into the building, smashing windows and sending glass shards and materials hurtling down almost 245 meters to the streets below.
I heard this loud noise, and you saw all this stuff falling down.
It fell down and hit part of the building, took the part of the building with it. and some of the debris may have come out and actually hit the windows of the building.
Since the shattered windows are adjacent to the crane struts, emergency crews are sent up to determine if the crane is still structurally sound and to clear broken glass out of the damaged window frames. Four pedestrians and 4 workers are injured. The accident shuts down a 2-block radius around the site. All construction comes to a complete stop, and the team must regroup. It takes nearly 2 weeks to address all the safety concerns. Then finally, the men move on to the last big job at hand. Topping off the One Bryant Park skyscraper. The crews must raise a giant spire atop the steel frame. Only then will the main structure of the building truly stand at its apex of 365 meters. The spire is so large, it must be transported in pieces on several trailer trucks, and massive loads going into Manhattan need special care.
Going into New York City, you basically lose 2 days because you have to roll in at night, and then first thing in the morning they'll have you go to the job site and offload. It is true what they say, this is a city that never sleeps, so there's always traffic out there to deal with. It gets a little hairy at times, you know, but you have an escort behind you and he kind of blocks it off a little bit. Even though New York is a really big city, the streets aren't the biggest.
Early the next morning, the spire pieces finally arrive at the site.
We'll definitely get it up there. I don't know if they're going to set it or not, but they will get it up. They have to, because there's nowhere to sit on the street.
The spire is made up of 70 individual steel pieces. Each must be lifted to the rooftop, where they are assembled and attached to one another. The process is expected to take nearly 5 weeks under ideal weather conditions. Despite the fog, the men get to work. The crane lifts a 7.5 meter long, at least 1.5 ton section into position. At almost 275 meters in the air, a slight miscalculation can prove fatal. Iron workers carefully guide it into place. Then weld and bolt the sections together. The operation goes off without a hitch. Over the next few weeks, the spire continues to go up section by section. In the end, One Bryant Park Tower will stand tall, 365 meters high. When it is fully operational, the tower will be one of the greenest in the world. And it may be leading the way into our urban future. The building is expected to reduce both energy and water consumption by 50%, and its occupants will benefit as well.
They will have a healthier environment. They will have clean air to breathe. They will be in an environment that they can feel not only proud about, but we will be giving them a better physical environment to be in. And this is a good blueprint for the future.
But with the high cost of building green and with global temperatures rising, can One Bryant Park make an impact?
By itself, usually one building won't make a difference. We've got to really get this widespread, because Manhattan Island's a small island, but we really have to transform huge numbers of surfaces and systems and technologies in order to make a dent in the climate.
Some believe the momentum has already begun to shift. trend may be contagious.